What's up, everybody? Wanted to take a few minutes to address a hot topic right now. I've been hearing a lot about, been getting a lot of questions about the new legislation in Virginia around wholesaling and assignment of contracts. So I brought with me today Snapper Tams, a buddy of mine, soon to be expert real estate investor, and also long-standing background as an attorney. He's going to shed a little bit of light for us, ask a few questions, and we're going to talk a little bit about this new legislation. So, Snapper, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Thanks, Mike. As you mentioned, I'm Snapper Tams. I'm an attorney, and I spent previously 3 legislative sessions in the Virginia General Assembly analyzing bills just like the 2 that are kind of causing all these waves as it relates to wholesaling in Virginia. I was also a prosecutor for the last 4 years, so I have some experience with some of those D-POR violations that essentially would, I guess, be the result of violating this statute and wholesaling without a license, as this statute would prohibit. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, perfect, man. So what we're talking about is these 2 new laws essentially that are being passed in Virginia, HB 917 and SB 358. Snapper, why don't you give us a little bit of insight as to what exactly these laws are and what we're looking at for wholesalers in Virginia?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you asked that question, and especially in the way that you did. Really, it's one new law, but it comes from 2 separate bills. It's just kind of the way that the Virginia General Assembly functions. So you're right, it is HB 917, which came out of the House, and SB 358, which came out of the Senate. They are identical to one another. They will be combined into one new law. And specifically, that is changing the definition of a real estate broker under existing Virginia Code section 54.1-2100-2100 to add specifically that 3rd clause, which specifies that real estate broker means any individual or business entity, including partnership, association, corporation, etc., limited liability company is included in there, that specifically sells or offers to sell, buys or offers to buy, or negotiates or otherwise deals in real estate contracts, including assignable contracts, on 2 or more occasions within any 12-month period. The other addition that it makes to this statute is it takes the definition, the existing definition of real estate salesperson, which is currently under 54.1-2101, and it moves it under the 2100 definition section. So that's not a substantive change, but if anybody's looking at the bill, I don't want you looking at this highlighted portion saying that wasn't addressed, that's brand new. It's not. It's just getting moved over, given this change to the definition of brokers.
Got it. So for the layman, for the newbie wholesaler out there, what exactly are we talking about here? Can you kind of break it down in its simplest form?
Yep. So what the bill does and what the bill intends to do is basically make wholesaling a practice under real estate that would require a real estate license. And so it'll be regulated by D-POR, the Department of Professions. I don't even remember what D-POR stands for, but nonetheless, under D-POR, and so it'll allow D-POR and give D-POR the authority to oversee the act of wholesaling, just as it does the act of engaging in real estate as a real estate broker or as a real estate salesperson, kind of putting them all aligned, all under D-POR's umbrella.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit before this conversation, and I had alluded to the fact that the law appears to state that you could potentially get away with 1 or 2 wholesale transactions, but after that, you're falling within the umbrella of this law. But you kind of corrected me on that. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and kind of let people understand what really is involved here?
Yep, absolutely. So it really is, you can get away with 1, any 2 or more within a 12-month period falls under this umbrella. So if you engage in at least 2, then you need to have that license. Now, the critical thing is, it doesn't say, for example, had 2 assignable contracts. So if I'm a wholesaler and I went and I made 50 phone calls, and out of that, I got 2 different contracts. Now I'm in violation. I was in violation long ago if I'm an unlicensed wholesaler because of the words that it uses. So it says sells or offers to sell, buys or offers to buy, or negotiates. So I can basically make one phone call to one person, and hopefully that one hits, because that's my only crack at it. If I go beyond that with my wholesaling activities and I'm unlicensed, now I'm offering to sell, offering to buy, or negotiating beyond that first one. So really, that carve out that they give for the single one is probably just for a person who's not really in the real estate world, not trying to be in the real estate world. Maybe it's, grandson trying to get rid of the house for grandma, or negotiating for one specific property to kind of keep the layperson from, getting in trouble here. But if you're doing this professionally for a business on the side, whatever it is, but you're doing it more than once, then you fall under the umbrella of this statute as it would exist on July 1.
Yeah, every wholesaler's dream. You make one phone call and you get a deal. Just the way it always works out.
One per year.
But what you're saying is even the act of engaging sellers or buyers for deals, you're pretty much falling under this umbrella within a phone call or two. So I think that's important to note. I didn't quite get that from my initial understanding of what was going on. What about, like, where are we exactly in the process of this? Is this like starting tomorrow? I know we mentioned July 1st, but where in the process are we here?
Yep. So it is not yet fully passed, but every indication that I've seen so far is that it is extremely likely to pass. I'd call it 99.8% chance that it goes through. So the House Bill 917 and the Senate Bill 358, they are identical to each other. They have both passed through both chambers. They are now going to go to the governor and be signed by the governor. It's, I guess, logistically possible for it to not pass, but 139 of the 140 legislators in Virginia have voted on this bill, and all 139 have voted yes. There's nothing to me that suggests that one who didn't vote is going to vote no. I think he just wasn't there that day. In order for this to not pass at this point, the governor would have to veto it, and there's nothing that has shown that he's going to do that. And then if he did, the legislator could still override that veto with an 80% supermajority vote, basically overriding his veto. Given that 139 of 140 have already voted in favor, that's over 99%. I'm a lawyer, so I can't do the specific math on that. It is extremely likely that this is going to pass. Now, the good news is, as you mentioned, when this does pass and when the governor does sign it, it's not going to become effective immediately. It won't take effect until July 1 of 2024. So that gives us about 3.5, almost 4 months to go through that process and get licensed. There are 60-hour courses. I mean, you could probably tackle that. Certainly, you could do it within less than that 3.5 months. So I think the solution and kind of the workaround is go ahead and get licensed and make sure that you're covered.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the most simple, straightforward answer here. I've talked to some other wholesalers in areas where this legislation has passed in other states, and there's other workarounds. They're typically going to be costly. They're going to cut into your assignment fees, double closing, and some of these other methods that people are using. I think, there are ways around it, but if you're going to be a serious wholesaler in Virginia, you might as well go ahead and go get your license. It's not like overly complicated. It's going to help you out in the long run, it seems. So, anything else that you may have noticed, or anything else we should kind of touch on here? I really wanted to just take a minute to understand and figure out where exactly in this process we're at. I think you've done a great job in clarifying that, but just curious if there's anything else off the top of your head that may be important for people to know.
No, I think that's kind of the big point, and I echo your sentiments. I mean, I think I understand that going to get your license right now, that requires money and that requires time. But I think in the long run, if you're even anything above a casual wholesaler, I think in the long run, you're going to kind of end up saving a lot of money and honestly saving a lot of hassle too. I will note, as a prosecutor, I did prosecute some DPOR violations, but I never had, and so kind of you and I were talking earlier about the enforcement of this. Mm-hmm. I don't know how stringently or how well it's going to be enforced. I can tell you that in my 4 years as a prosecutor, I did see a number of DPOR violations, but in every single one that I can recall, that DPOR violation for practicing whatever profession without a license was attached to something else. For example, I saw it most with contractor fraud cases.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had felonies where, you know, the homeowner would give a random person, contractor, $5,000 to build a whatever in their backyard, and that contractor just never showed up. So they were charged with the felony of contractor fraud and then also with the misdemeanor DPOR violation because it was only, you know, a first or second offense.
Yeah.
But I only ever saw it in the context of it being attached to some other bigger offense. I'm sure there are plenty of other people out there engaging in other professions that are not licensed and that may be on the hook for this, and
Sure.
it's just not being enforced. I don't know how well that's going to be enforced with wholesaling. That being said, you really don't want to put yourself in a position. There's no risk to, there's no interest that you should have in running that risk of violating that. I think if you ever get caught doing it, it's just going to be a world of hurt for you moving forward if you're ever trying to be a wholesaler again. And just to clean up something that I said before, DPOR is Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation. I couldn't let that one slide with not knowing the answer. So
we knew you knew.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for shedding some light on that. I think this will be super valuable to people, and appreciate your time and your knowledge there. Look forward to catching up with you soon, man. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, buddy.